nobody could keep the law like Mama. Nobody could break it like Mark. I needed grace. I'll never forget when I read The Grace Awakening by Chuck Swindoll. It was like I got saved all over again. I was saved the first time, well, the only time I think. I have a friend who was raised Church of God, and they asked him to give his testimony in church, and he'd never been given his testimony. It was on the spot, too. In fact, it was Jeff Easter. Do you remember the story, Jeff Easter, of Jeff and Sherry Easter? The first time they asked him to give, some preacher turned and said, give your testimony, Jeff. And Jeff said, well, I've been saved off and on for about 30 years. And don't you ever feel that way? The Lord saves me every day. Let me tell you, I need him every day. Mama used to call me before I had caller ID and I could not answer. Because when you talk to Mama, you better have an hour. I'd say hello, and the first thing out of her mouth, the fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. And I finally got sick of that. One day I said, but perfect love casts out fear. Mama wanted me to fear God, and I know the Bible says the fear of God is the beginning of wisdom, but it's the beginning. It ain't the ending. The fear of God will get your attention, but the love of God will constrain you. It makes you want to please him. Mama used to say, when I get to heaven, I'm going to go crawling in on my hands and knees. I said, not me. I'm kicking the door in and saying, ain't y'all glad I'm home? Because I belong there. Jesus has made me a permanent member of heaven. I don't have to have Peter's approval or anybody else's approval. I can walk boldly into the throne of God and tell my dad what I need, my Father, who has been more than a father to me, a good father. I had an Aunt Luke and an Uncle Kitten growing up. Only in Texas can you have an Aunt Luke and an Uncle Kitten. But I'll never forget when I'd go see Aunt Luke, she didn't have children and she was hyperactive like me. She had ADHD too. I used to have ADHD, but when I turned 50, I dropped the H because I'm tired. But when I was little, we'd go out to Sugar Land, Texas, which was all farm country then, and we'd go out to Aunt Luke and Uncle Kitten's, and she'd cook all day knowing we were coming, and we were still way down the dirt. That's another thing about getting old. You can't even stop your belches anymore. Burps. I don't understand it, y'all. Don't go turn 58. You'll belch on belch, burp, and I can't even say the word. What's a word? Belch. You'll burp. I'm sometimes up here talking about Lord. And I hear it gets worse. Anyway. But Aunt Luke, her name was Lucille and they called her Luke. She'd be way down by her little house. She'd come out the screen door and she would literally, y'all, she'd be out in the yard doing this in the yard. And she'd spin around till we got there. And I was 5, 6, I don't know. I'd run out of the car. I'd jump up in her arms and she'd swing me around the yard while she held that cigarette right about there. Yes. Folgers and Marlboro country, that's what she smelled like. But you know what? I just have it pictured in my mind that in 2013, when Mama breathed her last breath, and you know what her last words were? I'm going to the light on the other side. I said, go, Mama. I'm right behind you. And I hope when she got to heaven, this is what happened. I hope she started to get down on her knees like she always said she would and start to crawl in the pearly gates. And then she looks up, and it wouldn't surprise me a bit if our Father hadn't jumped off that throne and started spinning. I don't think he'd have a cigarette in his hand. If he's a deacon, maybe, I don't know.